So what if you want to create your own colour swatch? Well, first of all, let's use the pink that we've got. And you'll notice when we just set the colour and we go over to the colour swatches and we click, let's call this Anne Pink, we can add that colour to the colour swatches. I'm going to select a couple more colours here. Okay, and put it over here. Again, you'll see it says there, click to create a new colour swatch. I'm going to call that Anne Mauve. And then a final one, perhaps a little bit darker. And turquoise. So I've got 3 new colours and I'd like to save them to a new swatch. So let's go to, this is where we do all the saving. It's Edit, Preset Manager. So you've got brushes, you've got swatches, gradients and patterns. So we're going to go to swatches. I'm going to click on my first colour, hold down the Shift key, click on my last one, and I've got them highlighted. And now I can go Save Set. It will come up automatically with the Adobe location, so you need to choose your own location. And what I do is that on one of my drives I've got a folder which I call Photoshop Elements and I call Palettes, and I keep all my own palettes here. And the reason why I don't keep them under the Adobe locations because it's in the C drive and you tend to forget about it. So if you were to clean out your machine, you'll come back and you think, oh my gosh, I've actually cleaned out all my palettes and all my saved brushes and everything else. So I tend to save them all in locations where I know I'm going to back them up and I'm going to keep them. So let's call this one Test. Save, and I'm done. And the reason why you need to save them is if you were to change your present swatch from default to something else, say Windows, save change to the current colour swatches before placing them. No, because I've already saved them. If we go back now to default, you'll notice that it's actually cleared the swatches that we had before. But if you want to load them, you can do it here. Load swatches, test. And there we have them back again. So if you ever, as I say, if you ever go somewhere else and you come back again, you've always got them saved. It's very important with brushes, with gradients, with anything else. As soon as you've created it and you know you're going to need it again, immediately go and save it. Or if you're going to do lots of brushes, create your brushes and then immediately go and save them. You might want to stop the video at this point and save a couple of colours to your own colour swatch. Now we're going to create a colour swatch from a picture. So I'm going to load a picture that I've looked at recently. And this is where we use one of the modes. So we go to Image, Mode, and we choose Index Color. And what this does is actually converts the picture to 256 colors. So we make sure dither is none, and we go OK. Now we go to Image, Mode, Color Table, and we've now got all the colors which make up this picture. So we go to Save, and I'm going to call that Garden. Cancel. Now if we want to then load that table, we go to load swatches, and we can do it under here, or we could go to edit, preset manager, change this to swatches, load, and I've saved it as a table rather than a swatch. So you choose color table, choose it, load, and done. And now it's added all those colors to the end of our defaults, and you can go through and select the colors as you want. And if you want to get rid of it, you do as we did in the past. You just choose another one, you go back, and it clears it all out. I said previously that you need to save your swatches in a place where they're not going to get lost if you reload software, but there are times when you need to save things like swatches in brushes in the Adobe areas, and this is when you want to include them in the drop down boxes. For example, you have the color swatches here, and if I click the drop down box, you'll see I've got one called flower. Now this is one of my own swatches, and if I wanted to come up in the drop down box, I have to save the swatch in the same location as the Adobe swatches. For this picture I saved a color table, but if you want to show it as a drop down box, it needs to be saved as a swatch. So I go to edit, preset manager, swatches, load, and we've got it saved as a color table. So I'll bring up the color table, and now I choose my first color and I click on it. I go to the last color, I hold down the shift key, so we've got them all highlighted, and I save set, and this is when I've got to save it in the Adobe location. So on Windows it would be C drive. For me, I've got it under Program Files, Adobe, Photoshop Elements 9, Presets, Color Swatches. And I save it as Garden. Save. And it's saved as a swatch. Done. I'm going to just take those off, so we've got the default. That swatch will not actually show here until you've closed Photoshop Elements and you've brought it back up again. So remember, when you've saved a swatch in the Adobe area, or even if you save brushes and things like that, they will not be displayed until you've closed Photoshop Elements and you've come back and it's been reset. But this is one that I created myself earlier. And the only time you really want it in a drop-down box is if you know you're going to use it frequently. Otherwise there's no point. Otherwise it just clutters up this area. But if it's a swatch that you use, it's something you like and you know you're going to use it, it's worth saving it into the Adobe area. Also save them in another area so they don't get lost. If we go back to the color swatches and we have a look at what's available, I haven't really mentioned much about the other swatches that are available because a lot of them are now redundant. In the old days, the Windows and Mac operating systems used to be very different, and they used to have different colors, but now with the new versions of Windows and Macs, they're the same colors. So that swatch isn't as important as it used to be. A lot of these three are web safe colors, and again it was when we had old screens which didn't have so many colors, and we found some colors looked a bit strange on the old screens, whereas these days screens have got a lot of color, and it's not so important. The only one that you might tend to use is the photo filter color. So you might want to create a layer above your picture. We'll be looking at photo filters in a layer workshop, but you might want to cool it down by using blues, or you might want to warm it up by blending with yellow filter. So I wouldn't worry about these other swatches. I would just stick with the default, your own swatches. And there may be circumstances where you need to use commercial swatches. For the moment, we don't really need to know about that. So that's an introduction to colour swatches.